Hello, everybody. Welcome back to America's Mom. So good to be with you guys. I am your host, Sharona Bishop. Thank you for joining us today here on X America News. Remember, you can follow us here on X. We are on YouTube, on Rumble, and hit that share button so that everybody is getting a dose of absolute reality. Today, we're going to be talking about. I know, like, it's literally a conspiracy because I'm watching MSM all collaborate together to try to silence what we're going to discuss today, making it sound like the whole world loves being overly medicated and living in zombie land. Yes, we are going there today. We're going to be talking about SSRIs. We're going to be talking about what they're doing to our kids, to our families, touching a little bit on our veterans today, but that's going to be for a whole entire another show. We discussed it a little bit last week when I mentioned that our veteran population is 2 to 1 unaliving themselves compared to the general population. It is devastating what has been happening because of the over prescribing of Americans, and I think it's really critical. I know it is to talk about this because MSM is pushing back so hard right now. In fact, if you just do a quick little Google search on RFK and Maha, literally this week it's is Maha dead? Is Maha expiring? 15,000 psychiatrists come or doctors come out saying that they are writing a letter against RFK and his withdrawal from prescriptive medications. You know, the reality is everybody is best with the least interference possible from the medical cartel. I recognize that Anthony Fauci just got away with the biggest murder, biggest genocide, really, of humanity. I realize that. You all know that the expiration for him lying, perjuring himself, was today. For whatever reason, the DOJ decided not to go after him for perjuring himself. I don't know. I have no idea what that's about. I keep hearing we're going to see the takedown of Fauci and what he did, but here we are, alas. So, right now, we're focused on the future and what's happening. So, I want to share this with you guys. Last week, we were in DC for the May 4th event, MAHA event. It was the US Department of Health and Human Services that hosted it. They announced efforts to curb the psychiatric overprescribing at this summit on mental health and over medicalization. It wasn't just over medicalization of adults. A lot of discussion was had about children. And from my own personal experience, I know children as young as 5 years old that are being put on Zoloft, that are being put on Adderall. 5 years old. I think that is criminal for a doctor to prescribe Adderall to a 5 year old because he can't sit still. Are you serious? As the closing speaker, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. laid out a new action plan to promote appropriate psychiatric prescribing and drive deprescribing when clinically indicated. He said, "Today, we take clear and decisive action to confront our nation's mental health crisis by addressing the overuse of psychiatric medications, especially among children." Secretary Kennedy went on to say, "We will support patient autonomy, require informed consent and shared decision making, and shift the standard of care towards prevention, transparency, and a more holistic approach to mental health." Under the broader initiative to curb this overprescribing, the following medications were specifically identified as being under scrutiny for potential restrictions. Parents, I want you to listen. I want you to hear where they're focused right now, what medications are being examined because of their incredible adverse reactions in children and adults. Number one was Prozac, Zoloft, Lexapro, and Paxil. I want to share a little bit with you about Prozac right out the gate. I shared with you guys last week, my daughter was 4 months pregnant and failed the mental health depression test because if you're 4 months pregnant, it's not a lot of fun. You're just fat, you don't feel good, you're throwing up all the time, you haven't entered into the fun stage yet, okay? It's not a great place to be, and it's a horrible time to be giving somebody a mental health test. It's crazy. And then they offered my daughter, who was pregnant, 4 months pregnant with a baby, offered her Prozac. I couldn't believe it. Shocking. Because here are the side effects. These are the side effects that are, you find them immediately. As soon as you type in side effects of Prozac, worst potential side effects right out the gate: suicidal thoughts or behavior. That is hilarious. They were saying that my daughter was feeling depressed, and so they were going to give her Prozac so she wouldn't feel depressed, except the worst potential side effect is suicidal thoughts or behavior. This is really important, because children, teens, and young adults who are using this product are far more likely to be suicidal, to have a diminished worldview, and to kind of be in that dark space. Things to be watching for if you do have children who are taking this or you are on this. This is just some of the side effects, guys. This is on their packaging. Sudden mood changes, agitation, increased anxiety, impulsive behavior, self harm thoughts, worsening depression. Immediate medical attention is important, of course, if these things appear. This one, serotonin syndrome. This is a medical emergency. Too much serotonin can become dangerous, especially if Prozac were combined with any other antidepressants, stimulants, migraine medications, or any other drugs. Severe emotional blunting. To me, this is one of the worst side effects of the SSRI family. Severe emotional blunting and personality flattening. We've all complained about how we will be seeing people, they're like the non-players, right? They're the people on the sidelines, the NPCs. They're there, but they're not there. Like the spark is missing. It's like their soul has been muted. That is the severe emotional blunting, personality flattening. They don't tell you about the massive sexual dysfunction that comes along with these as well. One of the most common long-term complaints, this is for you adults out there who are wondering, like, what's going on with me? Low libido, inability to orgasm, erectile dysfunction, genital numbness. This is actually happening with our teenage girls and our 20 something girls and our 30 something women. This is happening to them and nobody's saying anything about it. And the worst part is, just so you know, they don't know how to correct it. They don't know how to make things work again after this particular side effect of these SSRIs, specifically Prozac. Manic episodes, racing thoughts, impulsive spending, hypersexuality, grandiosity, hallucinations. I love how they put it's rare. Don't worry, hallucinations are rare, but everything else I'm listing didn't have a rare tab beside it. So I don't know. Anxiety, insomnia, panic attacks, jitteriness, restlessness. This often occurs during the first few weeks. Normal side effects, just normal things you should look for and look forward to if you're going to start on an SSRI: nausea, diarrhea, sweating, insomnia, headaches, dry mouth, tremor, fatigue, appetite changes, weight gain. The worst offender, according to Google, according to AI, is Paxil. They're saying that Paxil has severe withdrawal discontinuation syndrome. It's one of the biggest issues that they're dealing with Paxil. But you know what? More than 3 million Americans are currently taking Paxil. And yet the devastation with this particular one is incredible. This is why RFK is out there talking about decoupling from prescription medications like this. People think that they can just go off of this stuff and it's no big deal. They think they can just cold turkey it and they're going to be just fine. But I think I shared with you guys one of kind of the moment, I don't know if anybody else caught it in the room. RFK admitted that he had quit cocaine like hundreds of times and, had 72 hours and then he was fine. But he said watching someone go off of an SSRI was horrifying. It lasted for the longest time, different for each person. And it seemed like at the end of the time, when the body should have gotten rid of all of the chemical inside 90 days or 45 days for Paxil, whichever it is, that is really when the withdrawal symptoms began. And it was devastating. And one of the biggest withdrawal symptoms is self harm, feelings of wanting to die. What are we doing? What are we doing? What exactly are we doing to people? What exactly are we doing to children? When we take our child in who's having a little bit of anxiety, they're a little bit stressed about school, maybe they're having some family difficulties, maybe parents aren't getting along, and we take our children in because we love them. We love them, we care about them. The doctor's the expert, and they're going to help us through this. They're going to help us. So we go to the doctor and we say, "Hey, this is what we're experiencing." And the doctor says, "No problem. I have a pill for that." Well, London Gad was a happy 12-year-old with a loving mother and sister. She seemed happy, well adjusted, but was struggling a little bit with some anxiety. She started a medication that was going to make even that go away. Her future was very, very bright until about 3 weeks into her Prozac prescription. Sheree, her mother, is with us today on America's Mom. It's probably one of the most devastating stories. that a parent has been willing to share publicly about their child and the impact of SSRIs. And so, Sheree, thank you so much for being with us on America's Mom. You're exactly the face and the person we need to be hearing from today on this issue, because the incredible gaslighting that's going on right now, trying to diminish the impact of things like Prozac, these SSRIs, is horrifying. They don't want to admit the truth of what these things are doing, especially to our children. So, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful daughter's story. London should be here with us right now. And so, I just want you to share with our audience what happened to London.
Well, it started a little bit with COVID. I took her in for behavioral health. She had started biting her nails and stuttering a little bit, and they said that she just had anxiety and separation anxiety. Um, so I just kind of thought it was be something to just deal with more family time and love, um, and then it seemed to get a little worse. In about February 2023, they put her on Wellbutrin, and it was her pediatric doctor that had done that. And she was on it for about 2 weeks, and she told me that she didn't like how she'd felt on it. So I immediately had stopped it. And then I started pursuing vitamins. And we did vitamins for a while. And she actually even spoke to me and told me that she felt like she craved them because they were making her feel better. So everything seemed to be going pretty well. And in October 2023, we had received a phone call from her counselor at the school, and London had dropped a note in the hallway that she would be better off not here, which is devastating to hear that your child feels that way because you try to give them all the love in the world. And so I went in to the school, and the counselor had asked us that, um, what had been going on with her. And it was probably time to take her to an inpatient facility. So they actually had us sign a document that we would admit her into an inpatient facility, which I look back now and I just can't wrap my head around it. When you're in a panic and trusting the system, you just do what you're told, I guess, in a way, just because of the narrative that's been pushed on you that they need help. And so we found an inpatient facility in Grand Rapids, and I chose this facility because it was a Christian-based facility, and I thought, well, maybe they won't be pushing the medication on her as much, and that was our faith. And so we went there, and they immediately assessed her and said that they were going to admit her. So the next day, I received a call from the psychiatrist, and he wanted to put her on Prozac, and he kept saying it was only 5 milligrams. Well, I told them no 3 days in a row because I was trying to avoid the medication. And on the fourth day, they had called again and started with the narrative of, well, she has to be on something for a few days before we release her. And so I took that as a threat they were going to keep London longer. So I was like, well, I guess I better agree to this because I I want London home. I want my baby back, like I don't know, it's just terrifying when it just felt like a threat. And
That sounds a lot like a threat. Well, we got to put her on something. Um, that's an interesting question for parents to ask. I just want to pause there. Before you take your children in to an inpatient care clinic like this, is to ask, what is the standard for me to take my child out? Because I don't think anybody I mean, obviously you don't. You're just worried. You're a good mom. You care about your kid. They're not doing great. You want to make sure they're going to be thriving, and they're just not. And someone says, "Well, this is what it's going to take to help your child thrive again." And you expect also that they've seen a lot of these situations, right? So they're operating from experience, and you're trusting that. So they tell you she's got to go on something before you can leave.
yeah. So then I agreed to 5 milligrams. And then within 2 days, they were releasing her. So it was a little shorter than the few days that they had threatened me with. Um, So then a day and a half after being home, London had addressed us, confided in me again that she didn't like how she felt on it. So I immediately stopped. And, you know, I tell people all the time, I didn't ask her how she was really feeling. It was just enough for me that she didn't like how she felt. And I trusted her. So I just stopped it because I didn't want to add any more anxiety to her situation by asking all these questions. So things were going pretty well. We continued with the vitamins and I had her in counseling 1 to 2 days a week. We really, really loved her counselor. Her counselor actually looked at London as kind of like her golden client, I guess. Um, London was the only patient of hers that had her personal cell phone number. And, London was very mature for her age. I constantly reference that she was a 20-year-old in a 12-year-old body because she was just very mature. And so I confided, in this counselor and we trusted the counselor. And by the end of June, she had um, distressed to me that it was probably time to put London on some medication. And I had, an hour and a half talk about this with her. And so I had made an appointment with her pediatrician and it was scheduled for the 1st of July. And London came to me again and said that she didn't like how she was feeling and wanted to go back to the inpatient facility. So I called the inpatient facility after I'd spoke with London for a little bit and um, told them our concerns, and they they said they had bed availability, but they thought that maybe it would be best to have London go up north with us for the weekend because we were going up to our property. To have like a family weekend and a reset, just to have her, relax and be a kid. And, because we don't have the cell phones up there and stuff. And so we did that and she did really well. We thought she had a great weekend. And by Monday, she was texting me. She was riding home with her sister and wanted to go back to the inpatient facility. So when she got home, we drove to the inpatient facility and we arrived around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And they immediately assessed her and wanted to admit her. So we did that. And then within less than 12 hours, I was getting a call from the psychiatrist again, wanting to put her on Prozac. But this time it was 10 milligrams. And I distressed to him that she didn't like how she felt on the 5 milligrams in October 2023. So we had stopped it. And prior to that, she didn't like how she felt on the Wellbutrin in February 2023. But he kept just telling me, well, you didn't give it long enough. And so he told me 4 or 5 times, it's the safest drug out there. I'd put my kids on it. It's only 10 milligrams. And after a while of trying to convince me of this, I finally said it was okay. There was no informed consent.
Yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah. They didn't ever walk you through the potential side effects, did they?
No, they didn't tell me anything. Not even one word of the black box warnings. Nothing.
It's just a wonder drug. It just, you take this pill and all your problems just go away. It's just amazing. It's amazing. Even though your child was telling you, it made them feel bad. They didn't like it. I know adults that aren't even on 10 milligrams, by the way. So when you're thinking of body size, you've got this small child who probably doesn't weigh more than 100 pounds, and you're going to put them on 10 milligrams of Prozac. I mean, there is I just, there's so much here besides the constant nagging at you to put her on medication rather than working through the whatever it was that is truly getting at her, what's bothering her. We saw so many kids during the COVID lockdowns, by the way, that really struggled because it felt like the end of the world. It created a lot of insecurity for children and adults. I can't imagine how many people were put on medication during that time. So you held out and resisted and resisted and resisted and resisted until they've got your child in their facility again. And they're saying, we not only do we want to put her on, but we're going to go 10 milligrams. And you just need to hang on for the ride. So you did that. And we've got just about 7 minutes left in this segment. And Sheree, I need you to explain to our parents that are watching right now. Walk us through what happened. You agree because it's the best thing next to sliced bread. He would put his own children on it. That's quite a statement to make too, by the way. I'd put my own children on it. You're like, okay, doctor knows best. And what happened from there?
Well, I also was told that I could have CPS after me if I didn't take the advice of medical professionals. Um, so I later learned that within 3 days after my numerous and I was my concerns and all of the the problems she would have on the other medications, I found out later that they had increased it within 3 days to 20 milligrams without my permission. There was no call. There was nothing, no knowledge of anything. I later found out that my name had been added to a verbal consent form that I had never seen. And like I keep saying with DocuSign and things, there is no reason that I shouldn't have been able to see that document. That I know that facility is 2 hours away, but I would drive to the ends of the earth for my child. Like,
Yeah.
if there's something I need to see, I would have gone there or send it to me, like I never seen these forms. And then, like I've explained before, there's boxes at the top of these. There's like 6 empty boxes. And it's like they literally purposely created this document so they could add medications whenever they felt like it. How is that legal? I don't understand that. A document I found where they actually gave her an injection of Zyprexa, which I a year and a half later just discovered it's for psychosis, and London was never a candidate of psychosis. She was not even near a hyper child. She wasn't any of that narrative. And the failures that have come out of this institution and the systems that are supposed to protect our children have been catastrophic to me. Like, for me to continue to be finding out stuff a year and a half later, because it's very difficult to go through these medical records as it is, and there's over 600 pages just from the inpatient facility. But I also found out that they check on these children every 15 minutes. It's called Q15. London never was anything but calm or sleeping. So why are they drugging a calm child? I mean, none of this makes any sense to me. And they did no root cause evaluation. They did no root cause treatments. And with my concerns of the medication in February and October, I later learned that they should have done a pharmacogenomic testing. They never even suggested that.
And
I
that's a
mean,
genetic test, just for those who are listening who may not be familiar with that. That's checking their genetics to see if there's any reason they shouldn't be receiving a certain medication. They do not do that. Doctors, as a policy, do not do that. That would be something you would have to ask for if they even offered it at all. So just so people know there. I don't want to interrupt at all, but I definitely want to get to your daughter eventually after 3 weeks of being on Prozac. And I didn't realize it was at 20 milligrams, which is insane. Insane. 100-pound child on 20 milligrams of Prozac is insane. And whoever did that, um, wow.
it's an
Wow.
adult starter dose.
Well, like I said, I mean, they've been a little bit more sensitive about that, even with adults, and starting them on low dosage. So it's wild to me to think they just went from 0 to 100 right there with her. Your daughter would eventually, just a few short weeks later, take her own life at 12 years old. And you have, gosh, you've been through it. Your family is suffering tremendously. You guys are grieving the loss of London, and you've been very, very proactive at holding government accountable, because a lot of this is related to the way that government is choosing to pay out the medical system. So it is a matter of government accountability. And you have written something called London's Law. And you guys at the bottom of the screen too, you'll see londonslaw.org. You're going to be able to go there and check this out and read the entire story there. But tell us what that is, and what do our parents need to know the most about your experience so they can protect their own children.
Ask more questions. Don't just believe the narrative from the medical professionals, because from what I've learned, I reference this as checkbook science. There's no science behind the chemical imbalance, and this is the narrative that we've been taught, and it's just all, based on profit. You need to, if you just choose to put your child on medication, I think that more nutrient deficiency testing needs to be done prior, especially B12. It should never be below 550, because your brain goes into anemia. And, ask for pharmacogenomic testing with the gene variant testing, because the brand name of that is GeneSight testing. And it will tell if these medications will work with your child or not, or if they're going to have adverse effects. They still could have adverse effects, but this will actually limit more of them happening to them because of certain gene variants if they have these, in their DNA. And I just read the labels, read everything you can, investigate more, listen to your child. This emotional blunting needs to stop. Children have feelings. These are normal. I also found out later that this mostly probably was hormonal with London, because it always stemmed the first of the month, but these are things I didn't know. They don't educate our doctors on this stuff, let alone the parents. And the physicians need to teach us this stuff. I mean, we're going in blind and trusting them with our child. And, I don't want anybody to end up like this.
It's the incentivization of the process, though. I mean, if you're paid to put people on pills, it stands to reason you're going to find the rainbow. You're going to find the silver lining in the pill, because it's enhancing your life. And I just don't think human nature can get away from that. Tell us a little bit about London's Law. What is London's Law?
I'm asking for legislation to pass more root cause care as a first round, investigating, because there is so much to our children missing certain nutrients. They're not getting this in our food system. The way that we eat, we're always in a hurry, and it's, McDonald's or just something quick, and this ultra processed food is depleting their nutrients. And you know I'm also asking for pharmacogenomics to be tested on our children, more assessments, like sleep, trauma, school, just anything else that could be going on. Like I said, hormones. Like, there's so much more to our children's feelings than just medicating them and, stopping them from feeling anything. They need to be kids, and we need to stop labeling them. The DSM just is created for symptomatic medicating, and our children are not a label. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people to understand you're not broken. You just need a little bit more care, and the care that we're not getting from our society and our systems.
It's wild to me, one of the stats that was brought out, that they estimate that around 35% of Americans are on SSRIs. And when I heard that, it began to make sense. It began to make sense. The apathy, the disconnect, if I scroll for a minute, I'm going to see these wild, crazy videos of people doing insane things. They're totally detached from reality. And this is what HHS, Health and Human Services, is finally going to address. A pill does not solve our problems. But more importantly, why I wanted people to hear your story is you are the literal picture of a mother who did everything right according to the system. You intervened, you advocated, you looked at alternative routes, and not once, not twice, not three times, not four times, not five times, you said no until finally the medical system wore you down when they had your child in their care. And so I really want to encourage parents to go to londonslaw.org, read the entire story there. I know you guys are upset right now. We will have Sheree back on. There's a lot of details you guys want to know more about. We will have her back on, and we will deal with a little bit more of the actual assigning and then what happened within the medical institutions that has Sheree looking at potential litigation down the road because there were so many failures. And I hope, Sheree, that you pursue that, especially in light of all the information that you're finding. I really appreciate you. This journey you're on, unfortunately, is not the minority. I'm devastated by that to know how many children had been impacted the same way that your family has been. Thank you for sharing your story about London today with us, and I look forward to having you back on again very soon.
Thank you, Sharona.
Gosh, again, if you just do a quick little Google search, Google real fast, Maha. I'm going to tell you right now, Maha is not dead. It's not going away. It's not being muted or silenced because of London Gad, because of stories like that, because of Sheree Gad, because they're not going to allow it. And I think about this stat for just a moment too, before we bring our next guest on. I just want you to have this in your head. Children who enter into the foster care system here in America, they are 4 times more likely, and according to the data, actually, out of Baylor University, just regarding East Texas, they did an East Texas study. I spent some time yesterday reviewing it. Could not believe what I was reading. A child in the system in East Texas, 38% of children put into the foster care system are immediately put on SSRIs, as compared to 8% of the general population. Multiply that across the country. And guys, let me just tell you this, East Texas is about as conservative as it comes. So I can't even imagine a place like Colorado. I can't imagine a place like Vermont or California. I can't even imagine what else is going on out there and how they're destroying our children. Oh, Maha is alive and well. It really, really is. Now we don't want to blame people's behaviors necessarily on this stuff. Everybody has to take responsibility on some level. But when we're dealing with children, if you could see my diary from when I was 12 years old, it is so pathetic and sad. Everything was the end of the world because you're 12. And that's just how life is. Everything's the end of the world. But nowadays, it's this big, huge deal. You got to have 5 specialists. We all have to make sure that you're not going to do anything crazy. It's just so overinflated. And it is really messing with the minds of these really good parents who are trying to do the best by their kids. It's just unbelievable. They really play on fear. We've talked about that a lot on America's Mom. Fear is the biggest motivator to do things you normally wouldn't do. How many people acquiesced to COVID because of fear? CDC knew that. Remember, they wrote a whole article about it, that fear was the weapon they were going to use to get compliance. And they're doing the same dadgum thing to parents about their children and this mental health thing. It's just unbelievable. So please go check it out, londonslaw.org, and go support that amazing, courageous mother. That family is just absolutely going through it. Well, speaking of courage and courageous people, I can't believe how honored I am today to have another great courageous person who has been, you know, there's being on the front lines and then there's being on the front lines. And this man has been on the front lines. I remember the first time I met him and I was just totally in awe. It's kind of like a John Wayne moment. If you ever got to meet John Wayne, that is what it is like to meet Sheriff Richard Mack. It's like you're meeting John Wayne for the first time. And you just know this guy's got his stuff down and he is going to protect every man, woman, and child. But better than that, he is empowering the sheriffs all across this country to stand firm for your rights under the Constitution and empowering them with the authority they actually have, which is greater than the state government and the federal government. And here to talk to us more about that today, Sheriff Richard Mack joins us here on America's Mom. Thank you so much for being with us. I think you're mute. I think you're muted. I think I had you mute. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm sure it's every day.
I can't hear you very well.
You can't hear. Can you hear me now?
I could hear your guest, Sheree, was her name Sheree?
Yeah, yeah. Can you not hear
I
me
could
though?
hear her very well, but I couldn't hear you. I mean, I can tell what you're saying, but your guest came across much better than you did.
That's crazy. Michael, is that the same on your end? Let's just check with Mr. Producer and make sure we're good.
Yeah.
You're fine on my
this-
end, but I'm not sure what the problem is. I'm looking into it right now.
Now I can
Okay.
hear him really well. I could hear him really
Hmm.
well, but I can't hear you very well.
I don't know. We look good here, but you know what? Let's do our best and see what happens. Let me check one thing because this conversation is so important because you're going to deliver some great information. Is that any better?
Maybe a little.
Okay, how's that? Is that any
Maybe we
better?
could ask maybe we ask Sheree if she hears you okay.
I don't know. Sheree, can you hear me okay? I don't
See,
know.
I can hear her, and now I could hear Sheree really great. And
I don't know.
and
You're gonna have to
I did want to tell Sheree I was part of the movement back about 25 years ago as a law enforcement professional. I testified before the FDA committee in Baltimore about all the horrible things that happen to kids that were on the mind-altering drugs. The drugs to solve depression. And we were instrumental in getting the warning labels on a lot of those drugs. So it's been something I've been a part of. And Sheree, I'm just really sorry for what happened to you and your family.
It's really it's really upsetting just because we know what the impact of this stuff is, and to know that doctors are not telling their patients what can happen is unbelievable, especially when suicide is literally the number one this is the number one causation for suicide is using SSRIs. So it's really mind blowing. I mean, it really is. And when we get into veterans next week, you know, the greatest men among us, you can't sit back anymore and just say it's just happenstance. I think it's purposeful.
No.
I don't like it. We're going to get
No.
more into it, but I want to talk with you today because you're the expert on enforcement across this country, and there's a lot happening. We've got illegals being released back into our streets by these activist judges who refuse to take a stand and protect the American citizen. What is going on, and what authority do these sheriffs have across the country? You know, Colorado is very near and dear to my heart, and we are having this exact problem there. They've gotten out, they've murdered more citizens, and they're out on a $10 bail bond, right? They $10 gets them right back out on the street again. What do they actually have in their toolbox? What authority do they really have when they're dealing with a state that is a sanctuary, obviously for illegals, and has passed laws to protect illegals who are doing violence to our American citizens?
Well, Sharona, I'm going to give you a good example of what sheriffs can do. So, believe it or not, this great example came out about 6 weeks ago from Sheriff Kevin McMahill in Las Vegas. The Clark County Sheriff told 4 different judges, 11 different times on 11 different inmates that he would no longer follow their orders to release people, dangerous career habitual criminals, back into society and endanger the people in his county. So he said, no, I'm not releasing them. And it's working. So maybe sheriffs should try to emulate the courage of this good sheriff in Las Vegas and tell the judges, we will no longer keep your revolving door moving. I run the jail. I will not release dangerous criminals to victimize more people in my county. And for me, right now, the program should be this. The American people listening to your program right now need to contact their sheriff and say, You need to put the judges on notice. You do not work for the judges. The judges are part of the judicial branch. Sheriff, you're part of the executive branch. They cannot tell you what to do. And if you believe that these people are a danger to society, tell the judge no and don't do it. Because that's exactly what Kevin McMahill did. We praise Sheriff McMahill. I actually sat down in his office with him and discussed these very issues. And I went over my Supreme Court case with him, showing that he is the CLEO, the chief law enforcement officer of his county. That was so ruled in this wonderful Supreme Court case that Sheriff Prince and I did back in June of 1997. This case has not been changed. And Sharona, I guess we need to really go over one thing too. What's the ultimate goal for our governments, for the judicial branch, legislative branch, executive branch? What is the ultimate goal? Safety and freedom. And we cannot go along with these woke idiot judges, these activist judges who think that their job is to promote socialism, communism, and the dogma of the Democrat Party. That is not their job. And when they refuse to do their job, we need to step in. Let me quote something from this most miraculous Supreme Court case. It says that Justice Scalia wrote this for the majority, and he quotes Federalist Paper 51. And it says, hence, and I have this memorized, it's beautiful. And everybody can get a copy of this at my website, cspoa.org. Everyone should have these. They're very inexpensive. You get 3 of these for $5. And we're not trying to make money off this. We're trying to make freedom off of this, okay? Get these little booklets, pass them around to your sheriff, pass them around to your county attorney. Make sure the judges get one. Every sheriff needs to put the judges on notice, and then we can all quote this, okay? Federalist 51 from a Supreme Court victory authored by Justice Antonin Scalia. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people. Well, Sharona, how does that happen, that a double security arises to the rights of the people? Exactly what we're talking about. Quoting again, the different governments will control each other. We don't bow down to activist judges who are trying to endanger our children and our people, and we say no. This is headed to the Nevada Supreme Court, and I'm sure he's going to win. Sheriff McMahill will win. If he doesn't win there by chance, it'll go to the United States Supreme Court, where we will win. As a matter of fact, I don't even know why we would even trust the judges with this issue, because so many of them have joined the ranks of the activist judges across the country.
Yes.
The power of this rests in the sheriff. Now, I took this to the court, and I trusted the judges, and we barely won 5-4. But even if I had lost, would I be forced to go along with something that is totally unconstitutional? And to that, I say no. Our job is to enforce the law. What is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution is what we're supposed to enforce. And so, regardless, I believe that we should be protecting the people against the crimes committed by these judges and by these crooks they're putting back out on the streets continuously.
It's kind of strange. Sheriff Mack, it's like the supremacy clause never existed in this new America that we're living in right now, where a person sounds fringe deferring to the supremacy clause, which we used a lot during COVID. We kept referring back to, nope, the Constitution doesn't allow that. And anything that's written in violation of the Constitution, it's nothing. It doesn't exist. It's repugnant. It doesn't.
Correct.
It's nothing. You
Correct.
have no greater authority than the Constitution. But these judges, they are in fact activist judges. They are they're not there to rule according to the law, according to the Constitution. They are there to push an agenda.
Yeah,
And
they're completely cray-cray.
it's killing people. It's literally allowing people out to murder children. and to murder more of our citizens here in America. That's exactly what's happening. It's not, we're not grandstanding here. That's just what's happening. And
Yeah.
then you have this whole another realm of judicial that is supporting the Islamic expansion in America. And I know this is something you're dealing with and you're talking a lot about. Tell us from your perspective, is this real? Are there sleeper cells across this country? What is the Islamic expansion? And do people really need to be concerned about the Islamification of the United States of America? Is this real?
Uh, no, they should not be concerned. They should be terrified. They should be absolutely appalled and enraged at what is happening in our country. Um, Ilhan Omar is one tiny little part of all of that. And look how crazy she is. And she's been part of a criminal enterprise that I don't understand why anyone in the DOJ isn't going after these people. I don't understand why the Biden syndicate family got off scot-free when Comer and others were in Congress saying we just need to get a hold of their bank accounts and we'll have it. Where did that all go? I don't get a lot of this mama coddling with corrupt public officials, especially in Washington, D.C., that have been destroying our country. And then what's happening? Why isn't the Attorney General and the governor of Minnesota, why do they keep getting on programs and late night television and blaming Trump for all of this? That's the absurdity of all of that is just beyond belief. But look at when the Biden administration opened up our borders, is there anyone that gave this halfway analysis and say, gee, I wonder who will come into America? I wonder who will want to come in. Well, obviously, the cartels did, and they joined forces with international terrorist groups, Iran terrorist groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, they're all here. And yes, they set up shop here. And yes, there are numerous sleeper cells all across this country. John Guandolo, former intel agent for the FBI, he is giving classes about this all over the country. I've been to them, and the numbers he has are mind-blowing. And if they're just 10% of the numbers that he's getting out, then we're in huge trouble. And we are in trouble. And folks, you need to get a hold of your sheriff and get them to cooperate with ICE so that we can get these sleeper cells out of here and make America safe again.
It really is a matter of the sheriff standing up because we're seeing in these local rural communities in blue states where they're being overtaken by the LGBTQ trans cult, guys, is advocating on behalf of Sharia, which is just crazy to me because they wouldn't survive in a Muslim country for even 1 minute. They won't survive once there is a transition in this country if that were to ever happen. Yet they're the ones screaming to have the ICE facility shut down. They're the ones screaming for equity for Muslims in their community. I'm watching it happen in real time. So what must the sheriff do? Walk me through this because all too many times what we're seeing is an indifference where they say, well, the law doesn't allow me to do that. How do you say, yes, it does? How do you come at a sheriff that says the law does not allow me to do this?
Then he needs to read the Constitution. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution says two things that are really important. One is that the United States government shall guarantee to each state a Republican form of government. So they've got to realize first that we're not a democracy, we are a republic, and we answer to the people. We do not answer to these politicians. We answer to the people. But even then, the people that are our boss, we the people, my boss in my county, cannot ask me to violate the Constitution. We are the servant of the people within the limitations and parameters of the United States Constitution. I promised in God's name to my people that I work for, that I answer to, that are the only boss I have, that I will protect and defend their God-given rights as detailed in the Constitution. I cannot violate that. And so, yeah, there's a few county attorneys out there that have said what you were saying. They'll tell their sheriffs, you don't have the authority to keep your oath of office. Another absolute asinine result from what we get at law school in this country.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the sheriffs, look, 80% of the counties in this country voted for Donald Trump. Those 80% of those counties should all be getting involved with the 287G program that brings ICE and your local law enforcement together. And does ICE need the sheriffs? Yes. The sheriffs know the counties and the people in their counties better than anybody else. And they should be working together to make sure that time and time again, these stupid judges that release murderers, literally murderers and child rapists back to the community without requiring bail, without doing anything else. Oh, they'll put an ankle monitor on them. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Those ankle monitors don't stop anybody from committing a crime. That's like getting an order of protection for a wife or girlfriend. That paper does not stop crimes.
Right.
We stop crimes. A well-armed society stops crime. A well-armed mother or girlfriend or wife stops crime.
That's right.
Okay?
That's exactly
So
right.
this is absurd. And the sheriffs of this country, folks, you need to call your sheriff and you need to join CSPOA. We help train you how to do all of this. Go to cspoa.org, cspoa.org, become a member of our posse, and we will help you with all of this. Okay? It takes a little training. We do it every Wednesday. Okay? Every Wednesday. So
I have
folks,
one last.
get involved with your sheriff and we will help you along the way.
Sheriff Mack, I have one last question for you, just because this has become front page news. I mean, 12 now nuclear scientists across the country have died under mysterious situations or are just missing. Don't know where they are. I'm hearing a rumor that potentially these terrorist cells that are in our country may have something to do with that. What do you know about this situation? And again, not taking away from anything on our conversation about the responsibility of sheriffs, but again, they're also the foremost investigators to protect our communities. And there are thousands of important scientists already that are in our country all throughout. So is this a conspiracy, or is this something real that's happening that these terrorist organizations may be playing a part of?
You might question that there's no that it was coincidental if there was 3 or 4 of these nuclear scientists, but now I think it's 12 in a matter of 3 years, 4 years, that have just come up missing or murdered. One lady, nuclear scientist, was shot in the back. Another one was kidnapped while she was jogging or walking with her friends. And you have to believe that there is a coincidence after number 11 and number 12. And this investigation should be going full scale. And it looks like there was a bigger response on Samantha Guthrie's mom than there is on this. And look, my heart goes out to Savannah and her mother and their family. But this case deserves 10 times more response than Savannah Guthrie's mom. So we need to get moving on this. I haven't heard anything about any investigation on this. Sheriffs should be going after investigations on this. They should be organizing a task force on this, working with the FBI to really get some answers on this. But the first thing I thought of as soon as I heard this story come out, the sleeper cells are attacking us. I don't have any evidence, but it just makes sense. It's common sense, folks, and they're here by the thousands.
Now,
And
why would it
we
make
need
sense?
to get moving
Why would it make sense to you that they might be involved in this?
because Iran is really ticked off at America and they're going after the nuclear scientists. And maybe they have kidnapped them and taken them to Iran. And yes, any question about Iran wanting to do stuff like this? Who else has a motive?
Mhm.
Who else has a motive to kill U.S. nuclear scientists or to kidnap them and take them away? Look, we had a lady that was here for 20 years that was actually running guns to Iran. And if she can run guns to Iran, they certainly can run human beings
Right.
and scientists.
Sheriff Mack, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today and just reminding us the value and power of the local sheriff. And yeah, they have to be held accountable. I've had as you know, I've had my massive disappointments in local sheriffs. So I'm always thankful to hear it again from you. Nope, they are the last stand between a tyrannical government and the people. Thank you for being with us.
That's right. Thanks, Rona. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. As a side note, Oversight Chair James Comer stated there will be an investigative committee into the kidnapping or the deaths of these now 12 nuclear scientists throughout the country. He said Congress is very concerned about this. Our committee is making this one of our priorities now because we view this as a national security threat, like Sheriff Mack just laid out so perfectly. It's going to be interesting to see who hates us the most right now. It's so crazy. We're the freest country, the most productive country, the most opportunity driven country. And those who live under slavery, those who choose to enslave their people and live under communism or a dictatorship, they really can't stand our success here in America. We still are the greatest country that God has ever established. I believe this. I see it every single day. The opportunities here are endless if you simply have the will to do something great with your life. You can be exceptional in this country, no matter what your background is or where you've come from. And I think even having Sheree Gadd on today, this is a mother who is turning her grief into an opportunity to protect thousands of other children down the road. She has chosen that. Here in America, you get to choose what your life turns out to be. I'm so thankful for that. So grateful to be here in America. Thank you guys for being with us today. Please make sure to share this show out today. We're going to be back with you on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time, back with another great cast. If you think we're losing, you're not paying attention, or you're listening to clickbait podcasters who are just hoping that the negative, fearful mentality will draw you in and keep you. And I'm not about that. I want to share the successes and the great things that are happening in our country for you, for your children, for our future. And so that's what you're going to always find here with me on America's Mom. Only the truth. And it's all it's majority great. It's majority freaking awesome, actually. So thank you guys for being with us. Again, we'll see you back here Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time. Remember, all that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do absolutely